document. And the homeowner elected board, while they are governed by the documents, are able to interpret them to the best of their personal ability. All of their life experiences, education, job, knowledge is included in the way that they interpret those documents. So every single person in this room is going to read them differently. It gets a little complicated, unfortunately. Yeah, I don't have anything else to add to that, unfortunately. But there is, a board that could come 10 years down the road and interpret the CCNRs as they were previously interpreted. It really just depends.
It's just that when you know a new person coming into the neighborhood before they get a chance to talk to you and see what the guidelines are and the CCNRs, they drive through the neighborhood like, oh, that's allowed, or I see that. You come to assumptions that oh, there are some detached structures, or there is a basketball goal right in the driveway, and you see these things and you think, oh, this is possibly doable, and then find out that things have been changed.
Which is understandable. Mm-hmm. Being a human being, that is completely understandable. But same as, signing up for a credit card, you want to read the loan agreements.
Right.
If you're investing $500,000 into a home, you want to read all of the documents, rules, regulations that you're agreeing to, and ask those questions before you agree to those rules. As soon as you accept a deed in the community, you're bound to the CCNRs. They are a contract. CCNRs mandate that there's a homeowner elected board to govern the corporation and make maintenance decisions, institute rules and regulations, interpret the documents, and work for the best interest of the community as a whole. Unfortunately, if you just drive around the community, purchase a house, and move in, you're not going to get the whole story. So the onus lies with the homeowner.
Oh, well, I understand that.
Yeah.
It just seems to me that the rules have changed from what other people had as rules. So therefore, it's, okay, it's no precedence, but, where's the fairness, in regarding what one person can do and what another person can't.
I think people buy knowing that there are CCNRs and that structures require approval. Now, they probably don't see that sentence that says no structures. And that's understandable. What they should do is ask, is that their agent should make it clear that it requires an approval, and if they want to have more information, then they should contact the HOA directly before
To see what the current rules are for that particular time period, which could change back the way it was or change again.
Absolutely. They do fluctuate.
So it's very dynamic. There's no real set of rules.
There are your CCNRs and design guidelines. You are not supposed to have a rule that directly contradicts your CCNRs and design guidelines. And of course, as with anything else, I'm certain there are loopholes, depending on which attorney you talk to, depending on how long you've been in the industry, and depending on which association you move to. With that said, it unfortunately is just kind of the way things go. There are industry standards in place, there's case law in place, there's state statutes in place, you have bylaws, articles of amendment, design guidelines, CCNRs. It gets confusing. There is a hierarchy of documents, and I do see what you're saying. This homeowner got to do it, why can't this homeowner? Because the homeowners elect a board of directors to govern the association, create these rules per the documents, that's where it ends. That's where the buck stops. Homeowners do have power to amend their documents. It is written in your CCNRs as a homeowner how to amend the documents if you're unhappy with the current rules. It's written in state statute how to remove a director if you're unhappy with your current board of directors. There are ways to, I'm trying to think of the proper verbiage, forgive me. There are ways to change a situation if you're unhappy with it. State statute, your CCNRs, and everything else typically mandates that it's at least a majority of the homeowners have to feel the same way as you. You are always welcome to contact management if you're interested in learning about any of these things. While we work at the pleasure of the board, we are also there as an advisory body for homeowners to assist, give facts. We don't have an opinion either way. But if you called me and you said, how do I amend CCNRs? I'll give you the process, how to amend your CCNRs.
If I can add to that, this current board came on, and we really took a stand because of the way that they were interpreted. We did a very intensive study on home values, and that's why we got involved. We here got involved. We felt that through all the studies that were taken, it showed we're a very possible decrease in home values. And that's why we follow what's written there, guidelines.
The CCNRs are very poorly written. They aren't really written for a single-family home community. As a matter of fact, the CCNRs say that the HOA will take care of all the landscaping in your front yards.
That was amended.
The way that,
That was amended.
the way that comes about is that the developer sees the CCNRs, pulls it off the shelf, and says, "Okay, we'll use this one." And actually, that was the time that they were amended successfully.
Yes.
And there has been talk about rewriting them because they're so poorly written.
Yes.
But, that would take, a huge
Yeah.
job and also the expense of hiring an attorney to write them.
Yes.
I wouldn't be averse to doing it, but there's a lot of people that need to help.
It's finding a way to create a document that 75% of the people in the community are willing to approve.
I just have a question about it. I understand the CCNRs, the guidelines, and how they are, and I agree they're poorly written. There is some discrepancies in it. But, like, when it was voted to take away a variance thing, and that was just the board voting, that's a decision, outside of actually what is on the guidelines and CCNRs. Why would instituting that back, give people tools to, apply? It doesn't mean that it has to be approved.
So the way that the variance was voted on at that moment, there was a majority of the board that agreed with having detached structures, essentially. The variance was very controversial. It divided the community in half, and it was a tough few years. One half of the community feels one way, the other half feels another way. That board of directors interpreted the CCNRs, created a policy from those CCNRs that didn't contradict. Variance is a very wide term. It can be interpreted as a number of things. At some point, multiple directors either sold, moved, something happened, and they stepped down from the board of directors, at which time the other half of the community took a majority of the board of directors and elected as a majority of the board in best interest of the community while doing their fiduciary duty to no longer utilize the variance process. If there are items in the community that fall under the precedent rule, the industry rule of 80%, they'll approve it based on that. If it does not, if somebody applied for a casita or something of that nature, they at this time, I don't believe that they would approve it. So the majority's changed from one side of the issue.
Basically, one side won out of the two that had an issue. Yeah.
That was a no-win situation.
Right.
Nobody's won in that deal. Nobody.
So you have
We just
someone
move
that
forward.
wants variances in possible structures and different things that could, be dynamically changed, and then you have the other one that wants it the way it is and keep the roofs open and not have anything.
Here's the baseline problem. Okay, she's referencing half of the community wanted it this way, half didn't want it that way. That's not really true. It was more like broken into thirds. So
Okay.
if you look at it in that aspect, you're never gonna get 75% to agree on anything.
Right.
So, you know, the variance, she said it was put in by another board, it was, and it was based upon perception. Now, if a structure was gonna be built, the board actually would communicate with the surrounding neighbors and get their approval before anything moved forward. And when she said it caused a rift in the community, it really did. It got to the point where people were ready to throw down in the parking lot. And I, you know, like, when you want to do something that falls outside of the CCNRs or the architectural design guidelines, the bottom line is, you bought the house, you were given that packet prior to buying the house, you were supposed to read it, and that's where this is at. If you're looking at, you know, creating another ballot to vote, the only thing I can do is tell you good luck, because I can tell you right now, you will get no further than we did on it.
I guess something that would help too people, besides the CCNR and the guidelines, is to include an informational sheet of what has been updated since that. Obviously, you know, in the guidelines it might say there is an option for variance. You say there isn't, so we need to clearly know that there isn't.
In,
You know, when people, you know, what you can or can't do. Like, you know, it says in one area it can be screened. Well, the current board says absolutely not.
No, it can be, it just has to go through the architectural committee.
No, well, you're ready for it, no.
in your documents, there are resolutions included. There are, if the policy was still instituted, that would be included. Resolutions, there's a welcome letter outlining details of the community. We can't put every interpretation in your welcome packet. That would basically be us creating a document longer than your CCNRs, explaining how
Right, there's
the
some
current
major
board
points,
interprets.
you know, like RVs, separate structures,
Mhm.
me wanting the basketball goal, which, you know, is a portable item.
So
You know, just some very basic points, you
Homeowners
know,
call in
because it
advance.
doesn't, the basketball goal, that's not specifically addressed in the CCRs or the guidelines. So you wouldn't know whether to do that or not, or if it was okay or not.
it's addressed in the form, it states in both your CCNRs and your design guidelines, any exterior changes must be submitted. End of
Right.
story. So we have homeowners who call before they move in and they ask questions. What's the possibility of this? Can I do this? Can I park it here? What's included in screening? And our response is typically, you can have the current owner submit on your behalf for whatever it is you're looking for if you're uncertain. Or you can purchase the house, submit, and try your luck. It's 50 pages of rules. Unfortunately, we can't interpret those for homeowners. There are meeting minutes online. They go back years. I have probably 10 years of meeting minutes in my office currently that I can provide to people. It's a lot of research. Even if I put all of the details that you requested, there would still be items missing. It's learn as you go. Things are constantly fluctuating. An HOA is essentially alive. It's a small government. It's changing all the time. There are laws instituted. There are laws taken away. There are rules that are adjusted. Verbiage is adjusted. State statute is adjusted, meaning we have to then go and adjust this policy. If I, yeah, absolutely.
You weren't gonna leave, were you? No. Oh, okay, I thought you were gonna leave, I'm gonna catch you before. Oh, okay, good, I'm sorry.
It's fine. And some of these items are so confusing that we have to go to an attorney to gather clarification. No matter, I mean, my boss has been doing this for 25 years, and there are still times where she's stumped. There's really no way you can prepare a homeowner. The only way to prepare for this is to read your documents and live in the community. It's definitely a learning process. There's really no way to
I understand. When we bought our house, I had written in the contract that if we wanted a wall and a pool. And that we wouldn't buy the house if we couldn't get that. So the research and submittals are done,
Yeah.
so.
Are you referring to page 17, under trailers and motor vehicles? Is that where you're seeing your screening?
Let me check my tabs and highlights in there.
I believe it's in the design guidelines.
It was page 17,
Yeah.
paragraph O, down at
Right.
the bottom.
If you look just a little bit above that, when you're talking about screening, it'll say to be visible, any lot so as to be visible from neighboring properties.
Okay.
So
Um,
that's,
we will be, this was a fact-finding mission, like I said, we will be building that up. I'd like to say something to the board real quick. I may not agree with the rules, we get in trouble all the time, but we did read them and we knew what we were getting into. We knew with the HOA, and I read some of the stuff on Facebook, and I just want to say thank you all for serving. I now see it's a thankless job for you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I appreciate that.
Courtney, I have a comment on the variance section. I'm not sure that the board can say we won't follow this section.
Mhm.
I think we can say as a board, well, we're not going to approve any variances, but I think people still have to have the ability to submit.
Absolutely, absolutely. And what I'm referring to is the policy that was instituted. It was concerning variances for structures specifically. I will clarify. The variance was, it was a policy that outlined the process for a homeowner to submit to the ARC and the Board of Directors for a structure. If there is a homeowner with a medical disability or anything of that nature, and they need something that is not typically approved by the CCNRs, and that is necessary to ensure they have a good quality of life, that they're safe, and that they're okay, the board will absolutely review that. Each time they do something of that nature, it's an executive session in private. We do not publicize that to homeowners, though. So if there is a variance granted for essentially anything covered under HIPAA or equal opportunity or anything of that nature, only the board will be privy to it.
Do you have any other comments?
Has the board ever denied a swimming pool? Or, I mean, have they always approved a swimming
No,
pool?
that's definitely an approval.
Okay,
We're looking.
we're looking.
Okay.
So, we know we have to submit it.
Clarification, we will deny an above-ground swimming pool.
That's, yeah, just gonna say that.
If it's an above-ground, or if it's your entire backyard, or something
Or if
outrageous.
you have a 12-foot slide that's visible from the neighbors.
Yes, yes.
High dive.
But then you're building a 10-foot wall too, right?
Yeah.
The standard in-ground pool.
Wait, we can build 10-foot walls.
No, we can't.
We were told our fence might be out of code though, so we have block wall, then we have the scenic fence, and the scenic fence extends down, and there's a gap of maybe 10 inches in some parts, and they said it's gotta be 2 inches, so that might be the deal breaker right there.
Yeah,
don't have
because
to
we can't
the whole-
redo the whole
Okay,
fence.
have you guys ran
It's-
into that?
Because it's the back of our house, it's the wash.
Okay,
So-
It's a county code, so I don't think that
So
has
you mean
anything to do
because
with
of
the-
children going underneath?
Yeah.
Is that what, because
Yeah.
it's not really
Or
a
we
barrier?
surround the pool with a fence, and we don't wanna do that. I didn't think that was a association issue, I thought that was a Pima County issue.
It is. It is. Pima County has their own regulations, and if you already had a pool in place before they created the regulations about the wrought iron being a certain, I think it's like 3.5 inches apart from each other, you have to close up the gaps. You have to ensure that a child can't stumble into your yard and drown in your pool.
Understand.
And kids are eating Tide Pods these days.
There's almost a worse challenge now.
I did have a community that uses, they used expanded metal mesh and they painted it the same color as the wrought iron, and they lined it up with the crossbars
On the
and welded it. it looked really, really good, and that brought it into code. You can also do, you know, wrought iron designs, just anything to close the gap. So you can think outside the box on that.
Yeah.
And also, if it's in the back, it wouldn't be visible from the street.
Side of the house.
Oh, it's on,
We want to do it
I mean, where's the
No,
gap
she's talking
though?
about the gap. There's pretty much the whole fence is above, it's more than 2 inches of a gap. Some of it's up to 10 inches, some of it's probably 4 or 5 inches, but it's,
But still, the part that's towards the street, that's solid rock.
yeah.
Yeah.
Correct.
So, I think
It
that,
would be visible from neighboring property, possibly. We'd have to research it.
It's architectural
Um,
committee.
The art can meet you, and when you guys email me, I do have a couple of things that we've done. I have some, you know, 30, 35-year-old communities we've had to figure something out.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
yeah, absolutely.
If you have nothing else, our next meeting is going to be May 2nd, 6:30 here. We will have the people from the weed treatment at that time.
That is actually the annual meeting of the members. So this is the one where 2 directors will be elected to serve on the board for a term of 2 years. We can have Weed Tech at the June meeting. We have one the first Wednesday of June.
And that's, when does it have to be down again?
Anytime in June. We've been doing it January and June.
Direction, June meeting.
the changes to the ballots, because before you had to sign the ballot and you had to sign inside the envelope, and Arizona statutes changed that. So
Yes.
is that something that is going to be spelled out? Because it was,
Yes, so,
last year there was a bunch of ballots that couldn't be counted.
yes, we no longer need, state statute used to define on ballots and all ballot materials. They have since removed the verbiage, all ballot materials. You do have secret ballots, and the thought process for having the envelope signed is if the election is contested, you can account for every individual and line up the number of ballots and votes and ensure that it was a fair election. And I believe you've come in and you've done that before. State statute removed that verbiage, so now it just says ballot and ballot envelope. Therefore, we are going to do the green ballot. We're going to have a label on the front of the green ballot. The white envelope will most likely not have a label on it because it's not defined. It doesn't say ballot and ballot materials. It says ballot and ballot envelope singular. We're going with the green one. And the white one will have prepaid postage for your documents. That is required. And there will be on the second page of the letter, I do in a little bit larger print, it's highlighted, it's outlined. I stole it from Jasmine, so it's incredibly well written. So we do have 1 through 7 directions. Please do this or it's not valid.
Yeah, it's really critical, because we did have some issues with
Yes,
that.
but if a homeowner does come, we typically will have a stack of ballots. We'll write void on the front of the ballot, and we'll have a star by the homeowner's name. When they come sign in, we'll say, hey, you have a star. Please fill out a meeting ballot. The way you did your ballot, it's not valid. There's going to be 4 candidates. If you vote more than twice, your ballot is not valid. State statute mandates that we allow you to vote for a candidate or against a candidate.
No, 2 votes.
Yes,
One's for, one against.
Yes.
So that counts as 2 votes.
and we do outline all of that on the ballot. If you're confused in the least, you can come to the meeting in person. I can explain the process. I am absolutely happy to sit with you and explain what will constitute a ballot being voided. You can also call our office. We are all extremely well versed on this. We do try to be careful in the event, in the event a mistake is made, the election does not stand, and we have to do it all over.
You know, that whole thing is very confusing. Would you have something in there like, here's a valid ballot, and show 2 check marks, and then one show the 3, or maybe 2 of them, and say, these are invalid, and none of them will count?
I could try. I could definitely try.
Because it's still confusing. You said, oh, vote for only 2. Well,
It's like-
I voted for 2, And these people I don't want, so I'll just say no.
Yeah.
That's 4 votes.
I remember
But people,
someone,
probably the positive votes are their votes.
I remember someone asking last year, and, I forget which way the question went, if their ballot was valid with only one of the homeowner's signatures on it, or if it was invalidated with 2, I forget which way, but it only needs one.
It only needs one.
Okay.
Each lot is viewed as a member. A husband and wife, for example, would be considered one member because they live on one lot. So we can have one or the other. Not everybody who is on the deed has to sign the ballot and ballot material envelope, ballot envelope.
Okay, any other questions? I make a motion, meeting be adjourned.
Take it right home?
Right, you go to your
Next.
Can I
Yes,
get
we
it right
had to
home,
go
you
through
guys?
that process. We had more problems with the county than anything else. Part of our, a lot of our recording.
It's good seeing the new peeps.
I had to go and
Thanks for
give
coming.
them the stuff and the guidelines and
want
pull
to
it on maps. And I wanted to go downtown and talk with them to get things out.
Every
It
time.
worked out though.
Drive down the street.
Okay, hello.
These tables.
No, I just have to put them back.